See, I've heard of a little peanut farmer that became the president. I've heard of, a young man that was born in Hawaii to a miscover that's not a president of the United States. So do not allow somebody else's perception and thought and idea of you to become your reality. I wanted to read you something here about dreams. And it says, show me somebody who doesn't dream about the future, and I'll show you somebody who doesn't know where they're going. A dream is an ideal involving a sense of possibilities rather than probability. A potential rather than limits. A dream is a wellspring of passion giving us direction and pointing us to lofty heights. It's an expression of optimism, hope, and values lofty enough to capture the imagination and engage the spirit. Dreams grab us. Dreams move us. They are capable of lifting us to new heights and overcoming self-imposed limitations. See, when I walked away from Switching Data Corporation and $94,000 a year, I said, I want to write about golf. The game, in a way, it saved my life. Because rather than going out here and taking my life, I would go out there and play. And within a year later, I was writing for the African American Golfers Digest, and now we're up to over 150,000 readers, the largest black-owned and operated golf publication in the country. I started doing ESPN year before that. So I was on ESPN 360, ESPN News, went to the Masters the past 6 years, went to every U.S. Open, went to the British Open, the PGA Championship, Tour Championship, Player Championship, got a chance to interview some of the greatest players in the world. But every day I realized that I was that same guy that was catching the number 96 bus on Snapfinger Woods with no coat and no place to stay. As I prepare to close, I want to share a very powerful, poignant story to me, because sometimes, us nerdy people tend to read too much into stuff, so we tend to complicate things. But one of my favorite movies of all time is Forrest Gump. How many people have seen Forrest Gump? And you remember the Bubba Gump shrimp company. And being prior military and having been wounded and having friends of mine that were wounded and having friends that didn't come back, I reflect back to the scene in Forrest Gump where Forrest, they're overrun. They're being ambushed, and Forrest is looking for Bubba. He's looking for Bubba. And he keeps running back in the enemy fire, getting shot. He ends up saving 6 or 7 people, but he finally finds Bubba. And Bubba's mortally wounded. So he bends down and he talks to Bubba, and he makes a dying pledge to his friend that we're gonna have that shrimp boat. And sure enough, when the war's over, he takes the money that he wanted and he buys a shrimp boat. But see, there was one problem. He didn't know anything about being a shrimp boat captain. He kind of overlooked that fact. So he buys the boat. And he goes out there and everybody's laughing at him. And he's casting his net out and he's not catching anything. He's going back and forth, and finally there's a storm. And there's a storm that comes up and destroys all the other shrimp boats. And now Forrest got the only shrimp boat and it's overflowing with shrimp. And now he gets, he got Bubba Gump Shrimp Company up and running. And he takes that money and he takes it to Bubba's mom. He doesn't run away with it. And like my grandmother told me when I was young, and she gave me so many great sayings. She said, a man only got one thing in this world, and it's his word. And if you don't have that, you don't have anything. But when I sat back and I really broke down that little part of that movie, first of all, you got to find your Bubba. You got to find your Bubba. You got to find that one thing that drives you to the point that you're willing to do it for free. I remember being at the U.S. Open and I had barely enough money for my plane ticket in the hotel. I didn't even have enough money to buy dinner that night. So I would go to the media center and make sandwiches and sneak them in my computer bag. And take sodas out of the little machine, because that's all I could eat that night. But I was finding my Bubba. I had already found what I wanted to do. I'd already found it. So you need to find what your Bubba is. And then second, you got to be fearless of failure. Failure is not fatal, but success is not permanent. Failure is nothing more than me being able to fall and get right back up and say, you know what, I'm going to try this again, but I got the experience of falling before.
That's right.
And see, that's where the trust of God comes in. It's like a little baby. You ever seen a little baby take some steps and you holding the baby's hand? Then all of a sudden you let the baby's hand go and the baby's just walking until it realizes that you out of arm's reach. Then what does that baby do? The first thing they do, they sit down. Boom. And you get paralyzed with fear. That K through 5 class that I spoke to was a room full of limitless possibilities. I asked those kids, what you want to be when you grow up? Well, I want to be a doctor. Why? Because my cat got sick and I gave her some water and food. Now she feels better. You know, one kid told me he wanted to be a superstar. But you know what was so beautiful about that room? The world had not told them what they could do. Yes. There's far too many people. The cemetery is the saddest place in this world. Because if I was to walk through the cemetery and feel the spirits that were there, I would see Maya Angelos that never wrote poems. There would be Rembrandts that never painted portraits. There would be Charlie Parkers that never composed songs. Because they allow fear, with other skepticism, self-doubt, to keep them from doing whatever it is. I have failed miserably in my life. When I got to Germany, I wrecked my German rental car, and that woman told me, you were not fit to drive on German roads. They told me. But I got right back up, tried again, and that's what you're going to have to do. See, if you graduated, if you're just going from middle school to high school, you got to elevate your game now. You're not where you were last year. So this is no time to get complacent. If you leave high school and going to college, my instructor told me in college, I don't care if you come to class. I'm going to give you a syllabus, and you show up or you don't show up, it's your money. So you have to stay grounded, build it on a firm foundation. But more importantly, don't be afraid to dream. Find your brother. The reason why Forrest wasn't catching any shrimp is he was casting his net in the wrong direction. Many of us get astray and cast our nets in the wrong direction. But the most powerful part of that whole story was that storm. See, God's not going to shelter you from the storm, He's just going to shelter you in it. So you're going to go through it. Mr. Barlow here, and I love him, and I got to say this before I go. He was asking me to come to men's Bible study for, what, 3 of those 5 years we know each other? And I said, man, what time is men's Bible study? He said, 7 a.m. I said, wow. And I'm like, y'all get started at 7? And he's like, yeah. And it took me almost 2 years before I made it at 7 a.m. But it was the most life-changing experience of my life, which led me to start volunteering at Wheat Street Baptist Church in their homeless ministry. And realizing that we're all victims of circumstance. Yes. And then you got to start giving back. You got to keep God close to you. Because you're going to have so many influences. My heart goes out to our young people these days in this world that we live in. But you look for your love. You cast your net at Zion Missionary Baptist Church. You keep it here because that's where the food that you need and your strength is going to come from. So whenever you start feeling the doubt, go home tonight and write on a piece of paper, if money was no object, what would I be? Because right now you got a chance to start walking down that path. Don't get a degree and don't go into something because that's what somebody tells you you're supposed to do. I have a degree in computer information systems that's hanging up on my wall. And I'm a golf writer. Wow. You know, so I'd like to thank everybody for inviting me here. I am so proud of each and every last one of you. I want to hear about where you are next year and the year after that, because again, if you don't know where you're going, then you're already there. Thank you.